Welcome to Main Street Minds with your host, Amish Munshi. This is where industry leaders and seasoned pros share their secrets to success beyond limits. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome to Main Street Minds. Today we have a very special guest, Ronnie Mack, here from Mirror Progress. If you thought tech was all about sitting down in front of a laptop and pressing a bunch of keys or learning some tech skills that are very, very geeky or more of project management, today we have a complete new perspective about what you can do as a career in tech. And it's about how do you take all of these technical skills and go to the next level. Look at how do you manage these things? How do you drive innovation? How do you look at the actual business impact and the leadership that comes with it? So Ronnie is here to share his success with us. And without further delay, I'll open up the floor. Ronnie, go ahead, introduce yourself and share your success.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Like you said, my name is Ronnie Mack. I currently have a technology firm where we integrate with businesses to solve unique solutions. And just to go right into what you said right away is, a lot of times people in the tech world, they get really focused on who can do the best algorithm, who can get, like you said, as geeky as possible and spend the most time coding. But the what's often overlooked is the ability to understand the business's needs, and then also the level to communicate with the stakeholders of that business because they don't have computer science degrees more often than not, and they need to understand these solutions in a way that makes sense for their business. And so, just taking that approach, and really trying to leverage communication skills and business acumen to be able to really like put myself in someone else's shoes, understand their challenges, understand how they might receive a technical solution, and then kind of making the communication of that solution be able to fit within the framework of their understanding or their daily lives and really solve a lot of those solutions. So that was the approach that we took, and it tended to work out really well. And I'm excited to just interact with more business leaders. I'm always excited to learn. So talking to more people, understanding more problems is always going to benefit me.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So tell us a little bit more about your journey from Berkeley till the leadership. Like how what does it take to get to where you are?
So, I think what it really takes is, being able to overcome fears because a lot of times, and this is obviously a blanket answer, but we'll get into the details, but a lot of times what'll happen is people get trapped into a ideal roadmap, based on what people have done before them or what they've seen work or what somebody else may have told them.
Mm-hmm.
And often you don't really often see people like jump outside of that roadmap. It's really hard to do at the same time too, because it's almost like swimming upstream because everybody's going a different direction, and you may sometimes get discouraged thinking that you're doing the wrong thing. And so, just a simple answer to your question is being able to just go in a different direction, do your own thing, and kind of jump outside the traditional roadmap that people might have planned
Mm-hmm.
for. For example, my experience at Berkeley, for example, especially on the STEM side, is mainly in physics. And I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of friends who study computer science or electrical engineering, things like that. And they would always, and I was always still coding and doing things like that. And they would be asking, well, why aren't you studying computer science? And in trying to explain to them how it all like related and how instead of being, I kind of felt like computer science was just a subset of physics. And so I just felt like I didn't want to be siloed into one thing. I kind of wanted to like go up to the higher level and kind of understand everything and how it orchestrated. And again, I think that contributes to my ability to understand like rapid developments in the technology industry really quickly, because some of these concepts are foundational, all over the place. And so if I see something, I might not get it right away, but I can spend a day or two reading some papers, watching some videos, and feel pretty confident after a short period of time. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like software is just making the hardware do something, right? Like what is it's still like a set of electrons going through the going through the silicon and doing something. It's always, if we think about it that way, it feels like magic saying, how does it actually
Yeah.
always add one plus one is two? why can't it just like how can there not be like some interference or something that impacts it? But it's amazing how far we have reached in the digital world. So tell us a little bit more about the current role. Like how what are some of the solutions that you provide to the customers? And you did mention there is a business aspect to it. So like what industries do you focus on? What specializations do you do?
Yeah, so we have clients kind of all over the place. Some in the government. We
Mm-hmm.
have maybe like utilities companies, we work with architecture firms, some higher education institutions, and then your traditional businesses, law firms, finance, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, I study something called general system theory, and this is the
Mm-hmm.
idea that you can, essentially abstract any type of system out to these basic type of components, whether it be a biological system, whether it's economics, whether it's a computer system, or whether it's a business
Mm-hmm.
itself.
Mm-hmm.
So under thinking in that framework, I really understood and understanding business and like operations and things like that, just having a background in that realm, I really understood different departments and business functions as like this system that was happening. And when you understand the databases, like each business function has a set of
Mm-hmm.
databases that are communicating to solve whatever business
Mm-hmm.
function is going on, you can kind of look at it all as one system.
Mm-hmm.
And so, my original kind of main goal was to be able to communicate to businesses like, hey, this is a system that we can optimize for. We can just organize a lot of these things. You may have apps that you're loosely using over here and loosely using over here, and these things are may not be communicating the proper way, or we may be able to, solve for some type of optimization here and
Mm-hmm.
really just nerding out about like database infrastructure, how that necessarily related to these business functions, what
Mm-hmm.
needed to communicate where, what data could be stored together, what data need to be
Mm-hmm.
separated, and being able, like you said, not only just nerding out and understanding these algorithms and the data structures and things like different types of databases, but being able to communicate that to a business person who
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a background in computer science or data
Mm-hmm.
science to understand and saying, hey, this is how this affects this business function that may lead to this outcome in terms of saving money or making money or speeding up the process or increasing the user experience in some type of way and really making it make sense for them.
Yeah.
Uh, and that was like my original goal, and it worked out pretty well. Obviously, not everybody understands these things. And one challenge that we had in there originally is, and I kind of alluded to this before, but people kind of want to take advantage of the flashy thing right away. And they want to take advantage of what looks cool and what feels cool right away. And so a
Yeah.
lot of times we would start that conversation with, they would say, oh, I want this. And they would hold the flashy thing up, or I saw this and I want this. And then I have to kind of bring them back down to reality and say, okay, if you want that, we have to do this, 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 and this. There's a roadmap to get there. Like your current setup is not even conducive to having that. Or if we do try to implement it, it's not going to work. It's just going to end up
Yeah.
being a waste of resources for you. And we want to
Yeah.
do it in a way that leads to success. And so,
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy, right? We keep thinking, oh, there's going to be this new shiny object, like there's going to be web services, there's going to be cloud computing, there's going to be AI. But behind the scene, the real big money, the real core of the heart of the business probably still runs on that mainframe.
yeah, exactly. And then it's like not in the mainframe. Like, are you able to query this mainframe and get the information that you want out of it? Or is it kind of just like this? I work with companies where they don't know what's in there. There's been a years of people
Yeah,
building patches and like these little bridges on top of it, and you get to 20 years later and you're like, wow, I can't even reach all the way down in here and understand all these processes that are taking place because so many different people over this time have added their own, like I said, little functionalities here and there. And yeah, it gets wild when you think about it. It gets
yeah.
wild.
Yeah, so thanks, and I would say I really need to appreciate what you just provided, right? Like the secret of success in tech within the career is always focus on the customer's need. What's the best way to resolve it? It may not always be a technical solution. Many times technology helps to drastically improve something, but it's not always a technical solution, right? It's there is. Uh, Sometimes just making a small change, a small process change might take the business a long way.
No, you just took the words out of my mouth. Like sometimes the process change is way more important, than the technical solution. And so sometimes the person might think that it is a technical solution because they might not understand exactly what's taking place. But then you get in and you're like, well, hey, like this thing is actually kind of set up properly. It's just you guys aren't using it properly. And
Yeah,
we're not tracking the right amount of data. We need to be tracking data from this point in the process all the way through this point instead of just getting this one little snapshot, and that
yeah.
kind of solves our problem right away. And
Hmm.
and sometimes that doesn't lead to us making the most money, right? Because we make the most money when we come in, we do
Yeah,
everything, right? But I
depends on
think
the case.
yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
better, like you said, to solve the client's needs because it always leads to a better experience down the line, and people really trust you and appreciate when you say, "Hey, I could do this for you, but to be honest,
yeah,
I'm not going to suggest that.
yeah.
My professional suggestion is that you just, fix this one thing. Maybe we hire somebody that can has this skill to solve this problem, and it'll make your life a lot easier."
Cool. It sounds great. So, what specific areas of technology is involved within your current roles? Uh, like, do you focus more on the web services? Do you focus on the data? Like, what specific area do you focus on?
So we don't try to focus on one thing. Now, like I said, a lot of this stuff starts with the databases and the
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure, and I think that's very important to understand. But we try to come in with a standpoint of like, hey, we know how all this stuff works. We know
Mm-hmm.
that you have business needs. Let us provide you with the right information to do the solution that you need. So
Mm-hmm.
some people they have data storage on premise, and it might not make sense for them to move it to the cloud. Some people,
Yeah.
hey, we need to move this information to the cloud. So a lot of times like for example, we might come in and build a portal for,
Mm-hmm.
a large company. That would lead to, okay, now we're working in the cloud, obviously hosting. We have APIs that we're building out within the portal. We're also setting up databases and designing the schema and kind of making sure that that's optimized for whatever we're trying to do. But then we're
Mm-hmm.
also building the front end, and we're like, we may use Next.js and build a fully interactive front end and and
Mm-hmm.
and host that again somewhere, whether it's on premise or in the cloud, and kind of just take all of that process away from the business, but still
Mm-hmm.
keep them involved in the process where we make sure that they know what's happening at each stage.
Mm-hmm.
And we mean, that's very important to us. It's just like understanding all these things, being able to solve a problem. Like I said, it's not always a portal. Sometimes we go in, we set up a couple databases and maybe some scripts to communicate between those and store
Mm-hmm.
whatever other information we need. So it kind of just varies based on the situation. Now, today, there's obviously, artificial intelligence is here, and everybody wants to take advantage of it, or at least explore how that would look as far as them taking advantage of it and what type of benefits they would be able to get out of it. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a million solutions there. I feel like even with that, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's artificial intelligence," and they kind of just throw that out there. But there's a million different solutions. Like, is that just mean where you're gonna, you get a corporate Chat GPT account and everybody just uses Chat GPT, or are we going to, like I said, stay with these closed source models, or do you want to actually download and fine tune an open source model to a specific business need that
Mm-hmm.
does something? Because let's say, for example, some companies don't want their data to end up in OpenAI or Anthropic's,
Mm-hmm.
back end somewhere. So they want to make sure that stuff's on premise. They know exactly what's happening with it. And in that case, we can just fine tune a model, store all of those prompts and responses directly there, and allow them to fine tune that whole process over time. Um, so yeah, and artificial intelligence, there's just so many things. The craziest thing for me for businesses, the most exciting thing is because of going back to data and how important that is the intelligent data retrieval. Because
Mm-hmm.
in my head, like I said, understanding the general system theory, businesses are just a bunch of different databases that are communicating between each other. There's people in the middle doing things, but the
Mm-hmm.
people are usually like in some way, shape, or form committing to the data or like the source of this data, and then that data is doing something else. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have intelligent data retrieval now where we can use cosine similarities, embeddings, and the ability to compare all this text in this huge, vector space, essentially to like retrieve the most relevant 10 documents out of 100,000 documents.
Mm-hmm.
And for a law firm, for any firm, a consulting firm, for anybody, that's a very valuable thing. That's something that's going to save them ton of time. And time obviously equals money. And yeah, I think that is going to be one of those things that as people kind of catch up, like as the businesses kind of catch up with what's going on the like the more engineering side of things, in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we're going to see a lot of processes change rapidly just through simply intelligent data retrieval and being able to like semantically query information versus the normal standard queries of in a word and having it kind of if then sort through things.
Yeah, yeah, that's really amazing. So, where like do you like focus on which industries are doing good? Like do you prospect based on kind of saying, hey, maybe manufacturing might be the next big thing which will need the more work. Do you like how do you select which area do you focus on or which business
Yeah,
work?
so that's very interesting. That's a great question. I have a background in economics, and so I like in the beginning I made the mistake of okay, I'm going to map out the industries that I think are most prime for digital transformation and these type of technologies, and then target these industries and like do these type of things. And that works in theory when you say, okay, this is the industry opportunity, you can numerically quantify it and you can say, okay, we can penetrate here and realistically get this amount of the industry. But it's a lot harder in practicality when you're just like reaching out to random people. And
Yeah.
so even in my background of reaching out to random people is it turns into a numbers game, but that numbers game became very inefficient. And so I
Mm-hmm.
had the most success, which is leveraging my network and
Mm-hmm.
finding the people regardless of industry, that
Mm-hmm.
just needed and were interested to even talk about technological solutions. And so that led us to have a wide bandwidth of industries. Obviously, after you solve a solution for one person in an industry, your name picks up there and you can
Mm-hmm.
kind of penetrate that area a little bit more. But yeah, so I shifted from okay, I'm gonna target this industry to like, okay, let me make sure one that the people that I'm working with are getting the best possible experience because they're gonna be the direct path to the next client. And then two, leveraging my network, regardless of the industry, to just
Mm-hmm.
meet, introduce with business people, whether that was in person events, whether that was through somebody I knew or went to
Mm-hmm.
school with or worked with in the past. And whether it was, like I said, in the government or in manufacturing or automotive or wherever, I was willing to talk to whoever and see how we could be of value. And that's had a lot more success for me, a lot less, I felt like a lot less meaningless work in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
because even versus randomly reaching out to people and where you're not getting response versus even if you do talk to somebody through a connection and it doesn't work out, you learn something every time through that interaction. And
Mm-hmm.
so you're actually getting the full engagement, you're answering questions, you're asking questions, you're learning things that you can take to the next interaction versus just,
Mm-hmm.
the cold messaging or reaching out,
Yeah.
calling, things like that.
Yeah. Makes sense. So, on a day-to-day basis, what are some of the challenges that you have to deal with? Like, there is always like a good good side of doing saying, "Hey, this is great," but let's say somebody decides to be at a leadership role, running the and spearheading the effort. What are some of the negative things? Like, what if some like what does it take in a person to be successful to be able to like manage the negative things that might come with it.
Yep, yep. So great question. One thing, so and this is something I had to learn over time, but I'm a type of person I'm very determined and I'm very open to learning. And these
Mm-hmm.
things benefit me in a lot of different ways because I can admit when I'm wrong. And sometimes I find the joy when I'm wrong because it's like you figure something new out and you
Mm-hmm.
know, you kind of go down this path. So those things were very natural to me in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I use that, like you said, to kind of when bad things happen, continue to move forward and kind of try to, dive in, learn what happened and things like that.
Yeah.
Those are the things that were natural to me. The
Mm-hmm.
challenge becomes, especially for a person like myself, where I feel like I can do a lot of things myself,
Mm-hmm.
becomes working in kind of create an ecosystem with other people and
Mhm.
managing those people and being able to communicate with them and get the best out of them in the way that makes the most sense for them,
Mhm.
not necessarily the way that makes the most sense for me. And
Mhm.
so I would say the biggest challenge is just team leadership and like understanding your team, how to communicate with your team to get the best out of them, and like growing in that fashion. Because as someone for myself, I'm so used to just, oh, I'll stay up all night, I'll learn this thing, and I can go, work on it, practice it for a couple weeks, and I can go
Yeah.
implement this, somewhere. But when you're trying to do something big, that's
Mhm.
just not feasible. You can't do everything. It's just, it's not going to work that way. And
Yeah.
so being able to really get the most out of a team and push and like I said, communicate with people and meet them where they're at is like a very, very important skill. And I feel like a lot of people overlook that, especially nowadays where, everybody's such a go-getter attitude. And so
Mhm.
I would say that's the biggest challenge and like the biggest area of opportunity. And it has a huge impact on your overall longevity for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that brings us to a very important point. I was just thinking, like, I think just being able to uh, manage and understand and relate to the team is the big thing, right? So, at what stage do you decide to have one more layer in management? Like, I would love to have manage 500 people under me, but obviously, it's not possible to relate to 500 people on at least a weekly or a monthly basis, right? So like how do you decide to like increase the hierarchy and like how do you structure like how do you organize something like that?
Yeah, you're right. And you also have people in different disciplines too. So you can't really manage everybody because although I might know a lot, I don't know a lot about every single thing. And so you would really want somebody that knew a lot about that specific thing to really manage that person and get the most out of them. And then again, as an operator, you have many more things to be focused on. So if
Yeah,
you're going to every single person and talking to them about every single thing, that means you're probably not doing something which is, not good.
yeah.
And so I think it comes with a growth in the team
Mm-hmm.
and the growth with the needs of the client experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really a big telltale thing for me is like, how is my client experience impacted by this process? And
Mm-hmm.
if my client cannot get personalized answers readily available, that's kind of a signal that we need some more people or even like another senior person that they could talk to answer their questions directly because they might have been used to me or somebody, partner with me answering those questions. And if we can't answer them in the same way, then we probably need somebody else to hop in here and be able to
Mm-hmm.
still talk to the people that are actually doing the work, but then communicate those same things back up to the person.
Nice. Yeah.
So I think that was a big thing for
That's
me.
that's a very big learning lesson for me as well. Like that's just so insightful. Thank you. So going back to what you see the industry, like you did mention a little bit about AI, and where do you see things headed in the next 5 years?
Yeah, and I don't want to be one of those AI people, but yeah, everything is gonna be revolving around AI. Now, I think so there's one thing too, I think a lot of companies are, I mean, they're not even a lot of companies, but there's a few big companies that are going into developing the best models and they're kind of in this long race to get the most compute and have the most tokens and do the best models, which is an important thing in itself. But the real benefits and the real opportunity is in people that are able to implement it directly into a business and have that lead to business value. And I think this is a multi-billion dollar opportunity. Um, and so I think that the next 5 years are not just going to hinge around like how much more AI gets advanced, but
Mm-hmm.
more so the implementations into businesses
Mm-hmm.
advance. And we really start to break down how to automate a lot of these processes and use autonomous agents. And like I said, intelligent data retrieval to really solve a lot of these issues. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you think about it, the models are going to keep getting better regardless. That's going to be something that's happening regardless of what I do on a day-to-day basis. OpenAI, Anthropic, and Mistral and Meta and all these companies and the few companies in China as well are going to all be in this large race to continue to have the best model, and that's going to benefit people like me who just know how to use it and can
Mm-hmm.
get the best like uses out of it as it continues to improve. I think
Mm-hmm.
the people that get in and create a moat by creating solutions that are directly valuable for businesses now, whether that's a proprietary technology or a solution that you're custom building every time, is going to benefit because as the models get better, you can go back and just update those things and immediately, incorporate those new improvements.
Hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. So I think what you are saying is, I would say the core science part of AI is already proven itself, saying, okay, like this thing works. But
Yeah,
then
yeah.
the engineering aspect of it, saying, hey, let's take this and make it as useful as possible. I think there is a lot of growth opportunities and over there.
Yeah, 100%. Like I just don't see it being used all the way. And maybe I have a sci-fi imagination around how it could be used in businesses, but I don't see it being used to its full potential in a lot of businesses tangibly. There's people that are doing it for sure, but not at a
Hmm.
wide scale. And so I
Yeah.
think as that layer starts to roll out and as a wide scale of
Yeah.
people, kind of similar to like cloud, right? Like cloud came out first, a couple people were using it over the 10, 15-year period. A lot of people start to
Hmm.
migrate to the cloud. As a lot of people start to migrate to AI, there's going to be the real winners are going to be people that built those solutions in between. Like you said, the big companies that build the models, they're already proven that market's saturated. It's very hard to compete without a large compute infrastructure. Um,
Hmm.
or like a, kind of yeah, some type of strategic advantage. And so I think that the most people should be focused on, okay, how can I go to a complex business or a simple business? How can I go to a huge multinational law firm, or how can I go to a laundromat and like figure out how to implement AI into this process to make either the user experience better, save the owner money, or
Hmm.
increase their revenue, like make them more money. If I can
Hmm.
do something along those lines, then yeah, and you just keep
Yeah.
repeating that as possible.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that makes sense. And so, before we conclude, like, are there any other final thoughts that you would like to share with kind of students or young professionals who might be looking to make a career in management and leadership?
Uh, yeah, I would say, like I said, the biggest things to remember is to be able to go against the grain, because me and my friends joke about this all the time, but people say the 1% or 10%, they want to be in the highest percentile, but people don't really understand what that means. What that means is that you're going to 90% of the time be going against what everyone else is saying.
Yeah.
If you're the 10%, that means that 90% of everybody else is going in a different direction. And so when you start to
Yeah.
understand it like that, then you're like, okay, you can be comfortable and have some solace and having an idea, having a dream, a goal, and fully pursuing that. And then I would just more so cannot stress the importance of learning and continuous learning enough, regardless of how many degrees or whatever. It doesn't mean necessarily going back to school and learning, but make sure you're reading, make sure you're staying up to date, watching videos, watching seminars, attending events, because it could always be that one little thing that clicks and allows you to connect something and create another solution and
Yeah.
some new value.
That is amazing. I think that kind of, just to summarize a couple of different things that we covered through the whole episode, is take risk, do something useful. Don't be worried about what others might say around you, but speak with a lot of people. The people that are successful, that might be your clients. Take feedback from them, and yeah, like, it's possible that the weird thought in that 5% or 10%, when 90% of the people are telling you something is not right, but at least have some people that say, yeah, okay, this makes sense.
Bingo, exactly. And it's a numbers game, right? Yeah, you're looking for the other 5 to 10%, right? You're taking in ideas from everyone, and you
Hmm.
have to have discernment to just filter them and say,
Yeah.
okay, this is useful to what I'm doing, this is not useful. I wouldn't say
Hmm.
just shun people out, because I believe all information is valuable in context.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just filtering through, you're looking for the people that same 10, 5%, whether it's in your industry or not in your industry, because again, all information is valuable in context, and
Hmm.
just trying to
Yeah.
take in that as possible.
Yeah, that is amazing. Thanks for bringing that very deep and very useful insights into and sharing it with all our audiences. So thanks. It was a great episode. I really appreciate you coming on a busy Friday and helping us learn more about you and about what's a very unique career opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. I appreciate being here, and yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I hope to stay connected in the future, and help out as much as possible.
Sure, and I'll put a link to your LinkedIn channel, LinkedIn profile in the description, so that's how people can reach out to you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Anybody
Thanks.
reach out, any questions or anything like that? Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Main Street Minds. Want to share your journey with our audience? Head over to mainstreetmindspodcast.com/guest to apply.